Hello, my name is Brandon Pruden, and today I'll be presenting on wildlife crossing structures in Colorado and their public appeal. I'm currently a civil engineering student at Colorado State University, Walter Scott Jr. College of Engineering. So, why am I here talking about this today? Well, millions of dollars and countless of animal lives and human lives are lost every year on Colorado roadways. Colorado has 185,000 miles of roadway, and there are thousands of accidents with vehicles and wildlife each year. Moving on to the background of this whole wildlife crossing structure topic. So what is a wildlife crossing structure? It's basically a footbridge for wildlife that is landscaped and made so that wildlife can cross roads effectively without getting in accidents with people. So every year in Colorado, about 5,000 deer die reportedly, which means a lot more than that go unreported, but each year 5,000 deer die reportedly on roadways, and this affects the ecosystem and migration patterns of Colorado wildlife greatly. Like I said, 185,000 miles of roadways are in Colorado, and around the United States, about 2 million wildlife vehicle crashes occur each year in the United States. So some benefits from implementation of wildlife crossing structures would be fewer wildlife vehicle collisions, reduced loss of life, both human and animal, and millions of dollars in wildlife vehicle collision repair and replacement would be saved while restoring habitat and migration patterns in Colorado. So moving on to kind of more expanding on those benefits, unfortunately the cost of a wildlife crossing structure can go anywhere from $2 to $4 million each, but can greatly help in the mitigation of these accidents. So wildlife vehicle collisions can go down 87%, and 10 structures for around that price range would only increase Colorado Department of Transportation spending by less than 1%. And essentially, if that 87% statistic were applied to Colorado accidents, there would be, or wildlife collision accidents, there would be $8 million saved annually by Colorado citizens. Not to mention 300 lives are lost each year with these wildlife vehicle collisions, so that would be mitigated greatly. And also tens of thousands of animal lives would be saved in Colorado each year. So moving on to some surveying and polling I did myself. These are all from 300 Colorado citizens that were done through social media with similar information that you were being provided with today. And the survey takers had no prior knowledge. So the first question, CDOT spending increase, 89% were in favor of a slight increase in spending from CDOT. They supported traffic. 68% had a support for traffic increase if this would cause a decrease in future traffic from accidents. Mitigation timeline, that's a little tricky because it can take nearly 3 years for some of these wildlife crossing structures to mitigate accidents. So 88% were in favor of supporting this despite the timeline, and 76 supported the entirety of the wildlife crossing structure implementation in Colorado. Survey takers also had 50% of people stating that they would like to see these structures built immediately in a comment section below, so that's a good sign as well. Moving on to the concluding statements, wildlife collisions are going to continue to rise with our reliance on roadways for transportation and people and goods. So unfortunately, this problem isn't going anywhere, and without the mitigation from wildlife crossing structures, the problem will have no end in sight. Thank you for attending this presentation, and I ask before you leave today, would you like to think about this one single question? Given the information provided today, would you support the implementation of wildlife crossing structures in Colorado? Thank you. This concludes my presentation. Are there any questions?